So whilst I was watching the Monaco Grand Prix, where let's be honest, not a lot happened, my mind started to wander. Rather than focusing what was going on the track, I really started to pay attention to other things on the screen that I wouldn't normally. Through each different shot, especially the long distance ones and wide ones, I was really looking at the grandstands and how much seating is available to fans, and also how much advertising space is available throughout the circuits. And interestingly, how many people were watching from their apartment balconies, yachts, places of business, etc., without having to pay for an actual ticket to watch the Grand Prix. Okay, so there's probably a hefty mooring fee if you want to park your gin palace in the harbour, but if you can do that, I guess money is not really that much of a problem. But the fact that these people are watching a live Grand Prix, all the sessions, practice, qualifying and the race, without having to hand any money over to F1 or Liberty Media, it got my mind turning even further. And I've come to the conclusion that Liberty Media must hate the Monaco Grand Prix. And I'm going to tell you why. But before we do that, please click that little subscribe button below, as it really helps the channel. I'm almost at 3k now and would really appreciate it if you could support me further and get us up to 5,000 subscribers. So Liberty Media took over F1 in 2017 and has, shall we say, brought in a new flavour to Formula 1. F1 is almost unrecognisable to where it was 10 or 20 years ago, and in my opinion, they have somewhat cheapened the product, whilst charging more for it at the same time. They don't teach you how to do that in business studies. But one of the things that has exploded since Liberty took over F1 is the number of street circuits on the F1 calendar, which there are now 8 of if you include Monaco. And this will also then become 9 once Madrid is added to the calendar. And some of these new fancy shiny street circuits that we see, such as Vegas, Miami, Azerbaijan, Singapore and Saudi Arabia, I think Liberty Media wants to push these as the jewels in the crown of Formula 1. And why is this? Well, it's because Liberty can make absolutely serious dosh from people coming to watch the Grand Prix at these circuits, and indulge in all the things that go with it as well. And it's not only from those in attendance, all those circuits have big, wide open spaces which you can fill with advertising space, corporate event stuff, anything to squeeze out those last little bits of cash. And this is why I have a feeling that Liberty kind of resents Monaco a little bit, because all those regular marketing tools and revenue generating things that are available at other street circuits such as Vegas and Miami aren't there for Monaco. Because the land available for the Grand Prix is just too compact, they can't bring the whole circus into town and ultimately can't utilise all their money making tools. Because at Monaco, I get the sense that F1 adjusts to the city, whereas for other street circuits, the city adjusts to the F1, if that makes any sense at all. Just look at all those apartments and balconies around Monaco, all those people watching one of the greatest events in the world. They are paying zero to Formula 1 to watch Formula 1. And for Liberty, that has got to absolutely make their teeth itch, because how dare people have the nerve to watch something that's going on outside their house for free. Look at what we saw at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, where the entire event was walled off to the general ticketless public. There was even security on bridges running over the circuit, so people couldn't stop and take a photo and get a free exposure of Formula 1. I just get the sense that if Liberty had their way 100%, they would set up some sort of cover over the circuit at Monaco so that absolutely nobody could get a free peek without paying. Another thing is that Monaco doesn't have these enormous runoff areas either, so that they can't CGI a giant Rolex or Salesforce logo onto it, so that's another portion of revenue gone. And with that, if it was entirely down to Liberty, I sense that they would get rid of Monaco at the earliest opportunity and replace it with a Grand Prix like New York, LA, or even Chicago. And that way they can set up all their regular revenue generating stuff, cut off one of F1's final links to the past, and press on with their vision of how F1 should be in the future. But bringing the focus back onto the Monaco Grand Prix, we have to be honest and say that the entertainment the product promises doesn't quite live up to the marketing. This year's race, and aside from the opening lap, it was one of the dullest races in memory, and if you go on social media, there are a whole host of people saying exactly the same thing. Some are even going a step altogether, suggesting that Monaco should be scrapped and replaced with something else. Or to maybe try something different, roll out some gimmicks and try and manufacture some entertainment. But I'm here to defend Monaco because I think it is the last bastion of F1's heritage and links to the past. which I feel is something that is so important to hang on to and keep that connection to history. You know, by all means, press on with the future, go where you want to go, but don't cut those links to what made F1 the thing it is today. Unlike some of the other heritage circuits like Monza, Spa or Silverstone, Monaco is more or less the same as when Fangio, Jim Clark, Graham Hill, Niki Lauda, Ayrton Senna and even Michael Schumacher raced on it. I mean, as a fan it's stirring to be there, but to be a driver on that circuit following the same racing lines as some of those great names has got to be something else. Unlike some of the more modern street circuits, Monaco has gradients. You go up the hill, down the hill, through the tunnel, and it is also a very bumpy circuit as well, which as we saw causes dominant cars that rely on a very flat surface to not work properly. But despite this, I think Liberty just see the circuit as out of date. Old facilities, old setup, and not fit for purpose to handle the modern day monster that is the F1 circus. My opinion now is that Monaco is the finger in the dam, and I know it never lives up to the hype, barely any overtaking, but if it did go, I sense the change in F1 afterwards would be greatly accelerated. A change which some of the more typical F1 fans might not see as great. I suppose what Liberty could have trouble grasping is that Monaco is a different kind of F1 event. And if the Monaco Grand Prix isn't something that you like yourself, don't worry, because there's 23 other races in the calendar. It's like the more Grand Prix that there are on the calendar, the more it justifies Monaco having a place on it. One race in a 24 race calendar is fine, but if Monaco was a race in a 16 race calendar or something, then you might have to start asking some questions. Because let's be honest, the action on track isn't helped nowadays anyway by the sheer size and weight of the cars. There's less and less room for the cars and drivers to actually do anything, and when you combine this with them doing an economy run to preserve the fuel and the tyres, it's no wonder some of the fans aren't happy. You know, every year they could do things to spice things up, such as implement a minimum of 2 stops. They could hold the race earlier in the calendar year to maybe make the race more vulnerable to bad weather. Things like that. But then again, everyone panics when it rains now, don't they? So truth be told, I don't really know what the solution is. I mean, boring race or not, I very much enjoyed watching Charles Leclerc win his home race rather than the normal procession that we get. So that's got to be worth something. In contrast to the Monaco Grand Prix, IndyCar does a fantastic job, I think, of selling the Indy 500 as one of the world's top races. I'm not an avid supporter of Indy, but every year I'll tune in just to see what's happening. But perhaps we have to stop seeing it as a regular race and more of a special event, an exhibition, a celebration of all things that make F1. And as fans ourselves, that is probably the most immediate change that we could make. Lower the expectations a little bit and just soak up a bit more about what it means to be racing at Monaco. But what changes will Liberty and F1 make? Well, probably none, and they're quite likely to leave the Grand Prix as it is until Monaco's contract with F1 expires at the end of 2025. Now, an extension will probably be made, but I'd say that Liberty are happy for all the negative publicity in the media and across social media to fester and grow to the point where the perception of a dull Monaco Grand Prix is impossible to ignore, to which perhaps unless Monaco meets some very extreme demands, shall we say, from Liberty Media, it could lose its place on the calendar altogether. And Liberty will say, never mind, let's replace Monaco with another street circuit that we have available and set up Vegas or somewhere as the event of the year. And in a generation or two, Monaco and everything it represents will be long forgotten. No more Triple Crown winners and no more Monaco Grand Prix winners either. Winning the Monaco Grand Prix used to be along the same lines as tennis players winning Wimbledon or footballers winning the FA Cup. The prestige it once had has kind of gone a little bit. I think the F1 world, and this includes the sport and the fans, need to be very careful with Monaco, because once it's gone, it's gone. It's not going to come back. But overall, F1 without the Monaco Grand Prix would be severely at a loss. Now, I appreciate this is just my own thoughts and speculations and opinions. I just wouldn't be surprised if Liberty see Monaco as an outdated inconvenience that isn't in line with its money-making plans and wants to be rid of it at the earliest opportunity. So there we go. It's amazing how little thoughts can grow and fester. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the content. I'm Paul, and I'll see you later. Cheers.